Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special episode of the Built on Purpose podcast, where each episode I interview exceptional leaders, entrepreneurs, authors, philosophers, and straight up interesting people to explore their outlook on life, work, and leadership. My hope for our listeners is that you can take away a special nugget of information from each of these interviews, something that will serve you and the people most important to you in pursuing a life built on purpose. My name is Brian Moore, co-founder and managing partner of Y Scouts, and today I'm interviewing Louis Efron. I met Louis about 3.5 years ago. It was quite a chance meeting. I was reading a Forbes.com article, and the article inspired me. And for some reason, I decided to see who the author was. When I clicked on the author's name, I followed a breadcrumb trail, which led me to Louis. And it just so happened that Louis lived about 25 minutes from where I worked. I sent him an email, never thinking I'd hear anything. Within seconds of sending my email, I received a response from Louis. We met the next day and have been friends ever since. And it reminds me of something a wise man once told me. When you are on the right path, the path of purpose, you will meet people who've been waiting for you the whole time. Louis has been one of those people in my life, and I can't wait to share this interview with you. I hope you enjoy Louis as much as I have. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you Louis Efron. Louis, buddy, it's great to have you on.
Ryan, great to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, you've done so many things, Louis, and there's just so many questions I want to get to today. I think what's so fascinating is how your career has progressed over the years. And I was hoping maybe you could share with our listeners where you started dating back to Broadway and how that experience has really shaped what your life has become and the purpose of your work.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Brian. My career has been sort of non-traditional. My undergraduate's in theatrical directing, and once I graduated from California State University of Fullerton, I flew out to New York to pursue my dream of working Broadway theater. And on the road of interviewing and trying to get in the door, I waited tables, I was a bellhop, I was head of conference service supervisor for a conference place up in Tarrytown, New York. So I did a whole bunch of little things and finally landed my dream job managing Broadway shows in New York City, and I was working for a Broadway producer. And I had subsequently about an 8-9-year career in New York, both managing shows, producing and directing, even managing actors at Actors Equity Association union environment. So I had a slew of different experiences and opportunities while I was in the arts. And after spending 8-9 years in the arts and realizing I wanted to actually be able to pay rent someday and maybe have a family, I decided that I needed to, theater was a labor of love and I just absolutely adored it. I needed to make a little more money in my life. And so I was looking around for things that were really sort of fed my purpose and things that were really important to me. And I really always liked the humanitarian side of things. That's why I was in the arts, because in the arts I was able to move people to laughter, to tears, to action, whatever I wanted to do. And I wanted to do the same thing in a corporate job. So I looked around specifically in the medical industry, because I knew the medical industry, one, would have that connection to helping people live a better lives, their lives, and just improving lives in general. And I also knew the medical industry would probably be more of a solid career move for me, both financially and just as I grow in my career. So I made a really interesting transition. So I went from being in the arts to then a labor relations specialist at Stryker Medical Devices. And a lot of people think that was a huge, huge jump. But the fact of the matter is, in the arts, there's a union for just about everything you can imagine. So I was doing a lot of labor relations as a producer and manager, and then working in a union environment in the theater. So when I switched over, I was basically doing the same thing I was doing in the arts, only for manufacturing workers in a corporate environment. So the jump wasn't too crazy, but I got to tell you, I did discover quite quickly that there's a lot more drama in HR than there ever was back in theater. So I discovered that quite quickly in labor relations. But it was it was an amazing journey. And then when I got in Stryker, the goal was to sort of learn initially about the corporate world and then maybe take it back to the arts, because I did love the arts and I still do. And I wanted to figure out how to sort of make a better living doing it. And I thought learning a big corporate model would help sort of apply that to me. But when I got in Stryker, it was an amazing organization. I got in this remarkable roller coaster of opportunity and living and working all over the world. I had a chance to spend a lot of time in the New York area and then live in Europe for several years and live in Japan for a year and then back in Arizona. So I was all over the place, and I grew from a labor relations specialist to a vice president of human resources. I handled basically every function in the business, from the front line manufacturing all the way through sales and marketing and finance, everything in the business. So I got to see 360 degrees how a Fortune 300 company works, both from different divisions and different parts of the world. And it was just a remarkable experience. So every time I got even slightly bored or antsy, I was promoted into a new role that would stretch my ability and interest. So Stryker did an amazing job. And I had a lot of amazing mentors in my life, and the people that really cared about me and cared about my career, and that mentored me along and moved me in right positions. So it was not by luck, it was by hand. There's a lot of great people that helped guide my career to give me that experience. So after spending 11 years at Stryker, I got an opportunity at a company called JD Software here in Arizona, and it was head of international HR. So I got a chance to experience a totally different industry, get back to Europe for a little bit. My wife is from Scotland. My first daughter was born in England, so we have a lot of roots there. So we got back for a bit, spent a couple of years at JD Software, and then transitioned back into my own business, which is something I was working on for a while. I've been writing since I've been very, very young, always been part of my purpose and passion, and I was writing for Forbes and Huffington Post, and I wanted to complete my book, so I had left JDA, completed my book, How to Find a Job and Career in Life You Love, continued writing for Forbes and Huffington Post, and also sort of doing some purpose-based consulting around aligning purpose, employee purpose with corporate purpose and the business results of that. And then in my own business, I decided to move back to Europe with my family, get my wife a little closer to her parents and some of her friends. And about 6 months after getting there and a month and a half after unpacking, I got a call from an ex-colleague of mine at Stryker about an opportunity to launch an employee engagement initiative at Tesla Motors. Clearly jumped at it. It was a remarkable opportunity to go into basically a huge purpose lab. I had written about Elon Musk in the past in the Forbes article, and it's something that followed him for a while. So it was a pretty amazing opportunity. And my wife was incredible. We packed everything back up, including a baby grand piano, and shipped it back to the Bay Area. And spent last year doing that. And now I'm back in my business full time, back here in Arizona, and have a new platform which we can talk about later, with Purpose Meets Execution. But it's been a huge roller coaster of a career, and I feel very, very blessed to have had a chance to experience several different industries, many different roles, tons of different experiences, global exposure, and that led me to where I am today. So I sort of, it's a long-winded answer to what you asked me, Brian, but it was a lot of stuff, and I had a chance to experiment at the end of the day in my life. That's what my book's about experimenting and trying different things and getting a chance to really find your path. And because I didn't have the tools I sort of created around this book about asking the right questions early in my career, I sort of meandered around and found where I needed to be. And now I'm in a place in life where I'm fulfilling my purpose and what I need to do. And it's playing to my strengths, and absolutely just love what I do every day. And that's sort of, so it's been a huge journey, but I finally got there. And there's still more to go.
So let's talk about writing for a minute and the work that you did, but even prior to the book. Writing's been a big part of your life, and you've had the opportunity to contribute to, organizations like Forbes and Huffington Post. As you were writing what mattered most to you, and the readers began communicating with you and commenting on what you wrote and the stories that you shared, can you think about what perhaps some of the most what the biggest surprises have been, or the things that struck you the most coming from your readers about what you were writing about?
Yeah, it's interesting. writing, like I said, has been always a passion of mine. I've always wanted to actually make a living as a writer since I've been very, very young. I've always written. I've written creatively, and then when I switched into the business world, I started writing about business. And the one thing I always wanted to do in everything I've done in the arts, whether it be in theater or writing or my books, is be able to move my audience and be able to give them things that are actually helpful in their lives to move things forward in their personal life or the business life. And the one thing I've got so much gratification from in my writing, and even more surprising as the feedback is coming in, is the ability to really actually help people with what I'm doing. So the Forbes articles and the Huffington Post and things I write about there, I always try to put action items and things that people can take away to actually use. And I've gotten tons of great feedback about things that people are actually using and are actually effective in their business and are actually helping them better in their personal lives, their business lives. And I guess I learned more than anything the power of the pen, which I always knew was a powerful thing, but the more I got entrenched in writing and the more people started reading my stuff, the more I realized how much influence I could have to do good for both people trying to find their purpose in life and live better lives, and helping corporations do better things. So I think the biggest surprise to me was how that unfolded. And I'll tell you sort of a funny story. When I published my first Forbes article, I got about 300 hits in the first couple hours, and I sent an email to my editor at Forbes and I said, wow, is it common for a new writer to get 300 hits on the article? And I didn't get a response initially because they probably thought it was crazy, because 300 hits on an article in Forbes is really pretty much nothing. But for me, it was a huge, huge thing. I mean, because 300 people had read my stuff. That's probably the most of my entire life. And now I have millions of people reading my stuff. And just to know that I'm moving the needle for people, and the feedback I get, that has been just amazing. And it's been bigger than I ever imagined. And I think it's probably the biggest surprise and the biggest delight that I've had with my writing. And yeah, I think that's been quite remarkable.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So obviously a lot of your writing revolves around the importance of purpose and doing something that will provide each individual a deep sense of meaning and satisfaction in their day-to-day lives. As we are all well aware, our time on this spinning blue and green ball is relatively short. And so to waste any bit of the 2/3 of it that's usually spent working for most of us is a missed opportunity. Why do you think that even with all of the data that's out there that draws the connection between why a sense of purpose drives better business results, why is leadership still in a fog on how important this stuff really is in driving better results? Why are they not buying it?
Yeah, sometimes I have to tell you, I'm shocked by this fact. And maybe sometimes when you believe something so strongly that you're shocked when other people don't believe it. But sometimes it just shocks me that some leaders are not getting this. And despite the statistics, I mean, there's research, which well know, Brian, but research that shows that there's been huge growth in purpose-based organizations. One thing I cite in my presentations on a constant basis is the study in the book, Terms of Endearment, which is a great book. And it talks about the study that was done between 1996 and 2011, where purpose-based companies grew 1,646% versus the S&P 500 at 157%. So despite that, which is hard research, it shows that purpose matters and purpose actually grows businesses, and turns out it's the single most powerful tool for top and bottom line growth. The essence of this is so simple, right? And the description I usually talk about when I'm speaking is when you go into, for example, a retail store. It's something everybody can relate to. Pretty much everybody in the world has been in a retail store at some point. And you go into a retail store and you connect with an employee that's doing what they should be doing. They're highly engaged. They're good at what they do. They're playing to their strengths. And you have a remarkable experience connecting to that particular employee in the store. Most likely, you're going to spend money there. You're probably going to spend more money there. You're probably going to go out and tell all your friends to shop there, and you're going to return there and spend more money. So the more that employee is connected to their purpose, the more it impacts their engagement, because they're waking up each morning thinking they're in a space where they're doing something that connects to why they're put on earth. And it feeds into that engagement, it feeds into that customer experience. Now you have the exact opposite experience. You go into a store and you interact with an employee that just hates life, right? they're in the wrong role, wrong space. They just hate their job, hate everything about it, and they give you really poor customer service or no customer service at all. You may leave the store without spending any money. You guaranteed you won't return to the store, and you'll tell everybody you know not to shop there either. So it's such a simple concept to me that both for internal employees or say external employees or internal employees that are communicating with your external customers, or your internal employees connecting with internal customers with other departments, that the interaction between two people that are highly engaged and connected and doing what they need to be doing in life, it would make perfect sense. It would be a spark of business results connected to that. And what I always say is, imagine if everybody in your organization jumped out of bed each morning and because they believed they were doing something more than a 9-to-5 job, they were doing something that connected to why they were put on this planet, and they applied that energy to your business because it's connected to the connection to their purpose and the organizational purpose. Just imagine the more productivity you get about, the more care about what they want, what they're doing, the more engagement with their internal and external customers. It's just such a basic principle. And I think a lot of people that haven't found their purpose in life, they're still frustrated in trying to find out where they need to be. They maybe haven't experienced the euphoria around that. But you speak to anybody who has actually connected with that, and you see the results of that. You just see how much more engaged they are in life. And that just translates into everything someone does in the job and the output that happens in the business. So, like I said, it always amazes me that leaders don't get this, but I think more and more organizations, I know more and more organizations are subscribing to this and understanding it. I mean, big companies like GE, if you see those commercials when they talk about, it's not your grandfather's business or your father's business, whatever, that commercial talking about jobs that change the world. Mm-hmm. More and more companies are talking about that, and they know it attracts certainly the next generation, the millennials and the next generation workforce coming up that really care about purpose-driven organizations and a purpose in life. So they're starting to get that. So you're seeing more and more organizations, I think, coming on board. But I firmly believe, and this is a really strong statement, but I firmly believe that the organizations that are traditional and the leaders that can't think outside the box and move into this space of purpose, no matter how big and established the organization is, I think ultimately it's Darwinism. They will die because they will not be able to compete for the best talent coming forward in the future. By 2020, 40% of the workforce will be millennials that care about this. And if people are ignoring this, they ultimately will not be able to compete for the best talent, and they will die as big as they are. So I think if people don't get it now, I think in 5-10 years, they will absolutely, by mandatory, they will understand it for sure.
So to that point, have there been any types of businesses or industries that most of us would look at as a bit behind the times, who have sought you out, either individually or in mass, to come speak to them, to talk to them about what this purpose movement, what this stuff is all about, in hopes to revive or breathe life into either a business or an industry? Do you have any examples?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I got a remarkable call from the auto care industry, Apex. I presented at the Apex event in Las Vegas, about 160,000 people there last year. And this is an industry that is a $500 billion industry that basically recognizes that understanding their purpose and marketing their purpose to talent is what's going to allow their industry to continue to grow and prosper. And so I went to this convention in Vegas and spoke about purpose and had a remarkable uptake of interest, and subsequently wrote some articles for them. I have other speaking events, everything from the North Carolina Tire Association to other automotive training organizations that I'm speaking later this year. And there's an organization that really gets it. And every organization starts with purpose. They just lose it over time. They forget why they're in business, and they start chasing a P&L, which we need to get. We need to obviously achieve our top and bottom line results, but the way you get it is from why you started your business in the first place and fulfilling that corporate purpose. But people forget about it. So here's an industry, $500 billion industry that understands it, that's connected to it. I got a call just about a month ago when I'm speaking at the California Bankers Association. This is another industry where a lot of people may not think purpose-based, but there's an organization that's embracing it, and the industry that's embracing it, and they want to redefine it and make sure that people understand that they are purpose-driven and they are having a huge impact on people's lives, and this is how they do it. So I think there's tons of examples, and I'm getting just a myriad of different industries calling me about this stuff, and it's really exciting to see.
Yeah, that is super exciting. I mean, I think that the automotive association, the tire association, some of those examples that you gave are certainly not what most of us would think about as a place where there's a deep sense of purpose that lives, even dating back to the inception of some of these businesses. But you're right. These businesses were formed, you would hope, and certainly think, to solve a problem, better a service, better a solution for those that they were going to serve. And then over time, as you stated, that the numbers start to take precedence, and the spreadsheet starts to take over. And obviously, as that begins to happen, you begin losing the very essence of why the business started in the first place.
Yeah, definitely so.
Yeah. So I want to throw out a quote. It's one of my favorites of many. It's a Sigmund Freud quote. And he says, "Love and work are the cornerstones of our humanness." And I don't think there was any mistake to this quote in him combining love and work. And what's so fascinating about this purpose movement is that it's tapping into this deep felt sense of emotion, of love, of connectivity. And for the longest time, it has been largely absent from our corporate environments. Are you optimistic that this Freud quote will someday, there will be a joining of love and work, and we can actually begin to think about work in that sense?
Absolutely. I think I love Freud. He was clearly a visionary in many things he did, and this is clearly one of them. There's absolutely an evolution. We're speaking about this of a new workforce coming online that care about this, that believe in this, and believe in this quote, believe in the combination of love and work. And the other thing I would say too is that technology has facilitated a strong acceleration in this direction. I mean, there is no longer a division between work and play and work and love. It's just not there anymore. I mean, in the old days, before computers and before voicemail and emails, you could leave your office and nothing would follow you home before even mobile phone. I mean, nothing would follow you. You can go on vacation. You would have a clear separation. But nowadays, everybody walks around with their iPhone in their pocket, right? You're constantly connected to both your personal life and your business life, and they basically become one. I mean, you can't really tell the difference. Today, I was having lunch at a cafe and doing a little work, and I'll do work while I'm at the gym on my email and just all various places, because there's no four walls anymore for me, at least in my business, and a lot of people that work in their own entrepreneurial environments. But in the corporate environment, more and more people are starting to work remote because you can with technology, which means you take your kid to school, maybe you work a little morning, take your kid to school, you come back, you do a little more work. You could watch your kid play in their soccer event and be working there in between points and things like that. But the bottom line is there's just no more division between this. And because of that, the workforce has got to evolve to embrace a combination of both love and work. Because the sad thing is, so many people spend the majority of their lives working in jobs they just don't like. And what a shame. I mean, we have one time, as you mentioned earlier, Brian, we have one chance of this in our lives to do what we love and enjoy our time here on planet Earth. And what a shame that those people spend the majority of their lives in jobs they don't like. But the new generation recognizes that. They say, no, we're not doing that. We don't want a 9-to-5 job. We're not going to be punching clocks. We're going to be doing something that we believe is going to help change the world, that's going to help us grow and fulfill our personal purpose. And we're just not going to take any job. And so that evolution is going to be pushed in this direction to fulfill what Freud had saw between the love and work, because it's just technology there to support it. The new generation that's coming up believes in this, and they won't take anything less. And so it's going to happen. Absolutely.
so refreshing to hear because it is just so necessary. And as you pointed out, in books like Firms of Endearment, where there's just tremendous data that shows the impact that this has on business results, and ultimately, it would certainly be socially irresponsible for a business to not be profitable, right? It needs profit to sustain. It needs profit to continue to invest in its mission and to do what it does well. But the way to have more of it is truly to not make it being profit the goal, and instead align your teammates and the people who are going to spend their waking hours focusing on the business to something that matters to them. And by doing so, you're going to end up having more profit than you likely could have planned for if you were managing by a spreadsheet. It's really, really great stuff.
Yeah.
One of the data points it just can't be ignored, right? And coming from you, who has spent a great deal of time in the people profession, the human resources profession, is the data that Gallup releases every year. And I've looked at it, you've stared at it a bazillion times. I'm sure most of our listeners have looked at it. But for the last 15, 16 years, we've had roughly 30% of at least the workforce in the United States fall into the engaged category, those that are driving innovation and creativity for their businesses, who are making things happen. You've got 50% of the workforce that's just sort of just fly just enough below the radar, do enough to collect my paycheck and not do anything stupid so as to get fired. And then the remaining 20% is roughly the remaining 20%, roughly 20%, is sitting in the, actively disengaged. And those are the folks that are, the cancers of the organization. So we've had all of this technology innovation. We've had, boom cycles, bust cycles. We've had all kinds of different external and internal forces on our businesses. And for roughly a decade and a half, we've had these three buckets, and the data hasn't changed. 30% engaged, 50% could take it or leave it, and 20% just unhappy. What is it going to take to get this data to start moving? How do we move this 50% into the upper quadrant? And how do we maybe start to cheer up some of the 20% if that's even doable?
Yeah, no, I mean, this goes back to our last conversation, Brian, really our last comment there about purpose. I mean, purpose is, for me, the igniter behind all this stuff. As you said, we've been speaking about this for decades now, and numbers are not moving, and you got to ask why. And I think this purpose movement is the reason why. I mean, majority of people, when you talk to them, most people would not say they're connected to a job that sort of connects to their purpose or drives their purpose. And a lot of people don't even know what their purpose is. They haven't spent time really thinking about it. So the way that this is going to change, is really going to change, is when the new generation coming forward is already asking these questions, right? They're already asking, what am I meant to do here? What do I do best? What is my legacy on this planet? Those questions are starting to be asked of really every generation, but specifically the next generation workforce coming up. And they're going to be entering the workforce with this information already in their pocket. They're going to know what they do best, where they need to go, why they're here, and they're going to be looking for jobs that match up with that. And that's going to force organizations to have to start defining their purpose. And what you guys do, Brian, I mean, we met as a result. I was writing, this is sort of funny, as you know, I was writing a purpose-based recruiting article for Forbes when you contacted me saying, hey, I saw you writing in Forbes, and I see you here in Arizona. And that's how we connected, which was amazing. And that's why I always talk about when you find your purpose in life, when you need to be, magical things start to naturally happen. And our connection, our friendship has been a result of that. But what you guys do at Y Scouts is definitely the future, and it's not a plug, it's reality here, because that's what people are interested in. That's going to be the spark that's going to change the level of engagement and start driving these statistics. Because imagine even the economic power. If we can take, let's say 13%, Gallup studies say 13% of the world's population is engaged in what they're doing. So let's say if we could even flip that and say 50% of the global workforce jumps out of bed each morning because they love what they do and they're engaged in what they do because, again, there's that connection to purpose. Imagine just the economic power of the planet, of what you can do. And you see the great examples of someone like a Richard Branson in the world, who is clearly, if you watch any of the interviews or you see him interact, he is clearly living his purpose, what he needs to do. That's where his focus is, and he's made billions of dollars as a result of it, and he's remarkable innovation and things like that. So if we could get even 50% of the workforce aligned like that, imagine just the power, imagine what we could do, imagine how we could really, really change the world. So that's the difference. That's why the engagement numbers are not moving, because most people, again, are not jumping out of bed because they love what they do. They're jumping out of bed because it's a paycheck, they need a job, and maybe they work at a better company than another company they've worked for before, but it's still, for most people, it's a job. And that's where the mentality has to change, and that's where corporations can help facilitate that by, again, defining for their workforce and their recruitment efforts what their purpose is and how they're changing the world. And that's going to attract people that understand what they're trying to do to change the world. And that's going to attract the right talent to the right roles in the right companies. And that's got to have a huge impact on engagement right out of the boat, right? When I was being told, actually, I'll tell you another story about, connected to you guys too, Brian, because it's fresh in my mind. I was meeting with Max, who is obviously the head of your organization. He told me that he offered someone a job for Y Scouts, and they screamed on the phone when they got the offer. And I thought to myself, and I said to him, I said, how many people accept a job where they actually scream because they're so excited that they got that job?
Sure.
Now that's really cool. But we're playing in, obviously, the purpose space, right? So your process, what you guys do, what I do, we're playing in that environment where people are connected to what we do because we're in this space. But just imagine if every employee you hired, wouldn't companies want that, right? Wouldn't companies want employees to jump up and down and scream that they just got a job at your organization because they're going to be part of changing the world? That's just going to translate into higher engagement. It's going to start shifting these numbers, but that is going to be the catalyst for change. I firmly believe it. And again, it's nice to see this wave catching on and organizations starting to get that, because that's going to shift these numbers.
So with purpose and connectivity to the mission of the organization certainly being a necessary, if not the most important ingredient to raising the engagement data, which will then inevitably lead to better productivity and profitability. There's people out there, right, who may not know exactly why they are here. They don't know exactly what their purpose is. They know maybe it's not what they're doing today, but they don't know exactly what it is. And maybe they're just, they reach that point of paralysis where they don't even know where to begin looking for it. In your book, How to Find a Job, Career, and Life You Love, are there any tips or advice that you can give our listeners for those that they know they're in the wrong, what they do know is they're in the wrong spot, but they don't know what the right spot necessarily looks like? What advice do you have for them?
Sure, and this won't be a shameless plug, but first of all, get my book, because that'll help you, the process. But outside of that, what I try to do in this book, and again, this book is basically my journey, what took me 2 decades to sort of figure out, because I sort of meandered around and had some luck and experimented and got to where I needed to be. But what the book attempts to do is to give you questions to people to ask early in their career, anytime in their career, to help refocus them in the right direction. Because you're right, the question is quite daunting. I mean, most people don't wake up in the morning and know immediately when they start thinking about this stuff what their purpose is. There's a process behind it. There's a strategy. So what I recommend is asking, and this is what I do in the book, throughout the whole book, is ask questions and respond to those questions honestly and thoughtfully. That is what helps get you to where you need to be. Most people are on a treadmill in life. I mean, they are moving 1,000,000 miles an hour. Again, with technology, emails coming from every direction, people don't take a breath, even 10 minutes during a day, to say, am I doing what I should be doing? Am I doing what I'm best at? By taking that time, even if it's 10 minutes a day or 5 minutes a day, to start asking those questions, you start coming from some realizations. For example, one question I love to ask, and it's my staple question, is, if you didn't need money, what would you spend your day doing? Because most people always tie, the reality is you need money to survive. I fully understand that. But my theory is, if you find something you really love and it's aligned with your purpose and your strengths, you'll make more money than you ever imagined versus just getting a job. So if you can answer that question and honestly, and sit back and say, what would I be spending my time? If I didn't have to worry about money at all, where would I be spending my time? And then once you determine that, then figure out a way to make money doing that. and then the money will when you find yourself a role that actually pays to do that, again, you'll be more successful. The money will follow. A question I asked about strength that I frequently ask to people is, where do you get the most praise? So when people say, I don't really know what I do best, most people know what they do best. They just don't take the time to think about it. So if you think about your day and your year and the last 5 years, what things have people commented on and give you the most praise? That's usually a strong indication as to what you do best in life. So just asking good questions and being very methodical about it, being very strategic about it. I mean, there's lots of people that talk about purpose by saying that you sort of meander through life, and when you find it, you know it. That's great. But a lot of people don't ever find it because it's not that process. There has to be some strategy behind everything. I firmly believe in life. If you're not succeeding, you need to change your strategy. And one of the strategies, I think, around purpose is just asking those questions. Asking, what your legacy is. What do you want to leave behind? What do you want the world or your family or your friends to remember you for? That's a huge sign as to what you should be doing in life. You get one chance to knock this out of the park, right? So what do you want to be remembered for? Start thinking back. What are you doing? How do you get to that end game? But understanding, what you do best, what you would do if money was not in the equation, really, you really have to separate that, because it's a tough question, and most people always go back. They start meandering back to the fact, but I need money. But just give yourself a treat of 10 minutes to sort of fantasize about that. And those are the type of questions that'll help sort of start guiding your thinking into maybe where you need to be. And then what you need to do is start experimenting. I never recommend anybody gets up in the morning, starts asking these questions, and goes in and quits their job. It's unreasonable, it's unrational, it's rational, you just don't want to do it. But start asking these questions, and you start playing around with places you may be a better fit in life and jobs that may fit better for you, or corporations. And you can experiment. You can do weekend jobs. You can do jobs in the evening. You could even intern places, whatever it is, just to get a taste of that and see if that's the right path for you to follow. But if you don't ever take any action, you don't start thinking about it, you're never going to be able to lift yourself out of potentially a frustrating spot where you feel stuck. And in most cases, you have the power to make those changes. It's just people that are willing to do it. And it's not easy work. I'm not saying that finding your purpose and finding your right place in life is an easy task. It's hard work like anything else. But you need to take it in baby steps. And baby steps that outline in the book is just, a question a night type of thing. Start asking a question a night before you go to bed and sleep on it, think on it, and take a little bit of time. And if you could live your life, it's an exercise I have in the book. If you could live your life for 30 days exactly the way you want to live it, then you can live it for another 30 days and another 30 days and a year and 2 years and 10 years and your entire lifetime. So because it can be very overwhelming to think about shifting everything in your life in a new direction. And that's not the goal of this. The goal of it is self-discovery, baby steps, one step at a time to evolve where you need to be, and you'll ultimately get there. But the beginning of it is that first step.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think about some of the decisions that I've made that certainly intuitively felt like they were going to get me closer to, my true north, if you will. And as I think back on some of the decisions I've made throughout my career, I've made sacrifices. This deliberate move towards doing work that really matters to me, so that I could wake up every morning and lay my head on the pillow every night, knowing that the work I do really fills me up in a way that maybe it isn't monetary, but it's a sense of fulfillment, a sense of meaning, and there's value to that. And I personally have made all kinds of financial sacrifice over my career, and I have to wonder, is that part of the equation potentially? Do people need to really sit down, in addition to asking these great questions, which I've read through the book and it is fantastic and really forces you to think about what matters most? But, with this purpose journey, if you're going to begin becoming unstuck, and maybe for a short period of time, you do need to make some sacrifices and reorient or reorganize things in your life to really prioritize what matters most. Because if you're making more money than you've ever wanted to make, but you're coming home every day miserable and not having a great life, as a result, it's affecting your family, it's affecting your friends, your overall quality. Well, then maybe the financial piece and paying the bills, which again, I agree with you, are important, but maybe it's an opportunity to simply reassess and take some short-term or make a short-term sacrifice in order to really achieve a long-term return.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's obviously going to be, as I said, it's hard work, the sacrifices along the way. But if you're looking at both a short-term and a long-term strategy, I mean, short-term, you need to put food on your table, so you need to make sure you take care of that. But long-term strategy, you need to get to a place where you're happy and fulfilled in life, because that's going to bring you more abundance than you ever imagined. I think one thing that really highlights this for me too is I think anybody who has a family, like a kids at home, can probably relate heavily to this. And people that make a lot of money that are miserable and they come home and their kids and their spouses see how unhappy they are in life, that is just a terrible model to be putting forward to people that you love. And, you know, I've seen in my life, I've taken huge financial sacrifices to move into the right places I needed to be. And I know you said, Brian, you have, and I've seen other people that have done both, that either have stayed in jobs where they've made a lot of money and been incredibly unhappy, and people around them all know how unhappy they are and feel, quite frankly, bad for them, which is so ironic, because they're making all this money and people actually feel bad for them. And then there's the people that make the sacrifices and change and move into something where they really love, and people want to be around those people. People are inspired by those people. People are motivated by those people. And you're setting a remarkable example for kids and other people around you, for your kids potentially, of that doing what you love is most important and most fulfilled. And money doesn't make you happy. We all know that. We've seen tons of examples of how people have oogles of money and incredibly unhappy. So money does not buy happiness. It's doing what you love and what you're passionate about and what you're good at and what's going to make a difference in the world for you. That's what makes you happy. And the closer you get to that, the more people are going to pay you to do those type of things. So the money follows if you focus on the right thing. But you're 100% right. There's certainly sacrifices that need to be made along the way. But you need to. I always like the quote by Dr. Wayne Dyer, says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, right? And it's so true in life. So if you look at life as being, stuck and negative experiences, and that's what you're going to have. If you look at life as having potential and opportunity and the ability to achieve what you want to achieve, you'll get there. I mean, you'll get there. Like, there'll be bumps in the road and it won't be easy, but you'll ultimately get there, and everybody around you will recognize that you've achieved what is so important, again, that connection to purpose and fulfillment and being happy in life, which shocks me why anybody would want to be unhappy in life, but it happens.
So Louis, this has just been great. I cannot thank you enough for spending the time that you have with us, but I don't want to leave just yet. You're working on something really, really exciting right now. I hope I'm not letting the cat out of the bag, and I hope it's okay to talk about, but maybe you can share with our listeners a little bit about what's next for you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing it up, Ryan. I definitely, it's probably right now in the process of developing a very exciting new tool for basically the corporate market, and it's a brand that I'm coming out with called Purpose Meets Execution, which is in the development stage, which will hopefully be ready to go to market in the next 2 months. And what it does is it brings purpose and everything I've been speaking about for years, and how do you connect your employees, you understand your employees' purpose, connect it to your corporate purpose and the impact of engagement on in your organization, ultimately your business results. But it's called Purpose Meets Execution, because the one thing I've discovered in my travels in studying the purpose-based corporate environment and being involved in it is purpose is absolutely the foundation and the mandatory baseline for every organization that you need to build on. But you can't change the world if you can't execute and deliver great business results. So if you're in your business and you're thinking like potentially a traditional charity in the old days where it's about the cause, but you don't think about beyond the cause and how you're going to structure to bring in donations, and in the corporate world, how you're going to bring in sales and profits. The only way a purpose-based organization, commercial-based purpose-based organization is going to change the world is if they run a great business, if they actually are able to sell more and produce more profit, and as you said earlier, Brian, reinvest in your business to grow, hire more people, to further fulfill your purpose. So there's got to be a connection between purpose and execution, of balance. And this new tool that I'm developing is basically a tool that helps assess the balance you have in your organization, the balance of understanding your purpose and the connection to purpose with your employees and the ultimate employee engagement you get out of that in business results, but also a combination of how much you're executing on that, how you're using that purpose to leverage your ability to execute on what the market expectations of your business is, what your sales and profit objectives are, everything to do with every financial and business metric you have in your business, having a connection and a balance behind the purpose of your business and the execution of the business. And that's what's going to drive really great and strong and sustainable business results, both in your top and bottom line profits. So what I'm doing with this platform is essentially doing diagnostics for organizations where I would go in, myself and my team, to assess the organizational balance and do diagnostics as to where that sits, and then putting a process in place and launching a process within the organization to action plan around bringing that balance in line and making sure it's sustainable and strong to ultimately tie that to better business results. So it's really, really exciting because it's new. There's people talking about purpose around the place. There's people talking about execution, but it hasn't been brought together. And this is, I think, the magic behind this next step in this whole purpose movement is having an organization that's truly changing the world, but they're changing the world because they're running a great business and they're delivering what they need to deliver as far as product, as far as quality, as far as financial results to their investors, and then it all works. And this also supports, when we started this whole conversation, the ROI behind purpose. Because when you connect the two, we're going to start seeing remarkable ROI, and more organizations are going to be drawn to this, and more employees and talent are going to be drawn to this model, because it is going to, this is, I believe, what's going to change the world around business and the way we do business today, and it's going to increase the ability for organizations to attract next generation workforce to business, because not only will it be a strong purpose-based organization, but there'll be a well-run, growing, and successful organization that will be sustainable well into the future. So it's a combination of the two best things in life, right, is actually being able to change the world and being able to deliver, and doing it through delivering great business results and then feeding each other. So that's what I'm working on now. I'm incredibly excited about it. Again, it's called Purpose Meets Execution, and we're ramping up. We're already talking to businesses that are interested in it, and we're ready to go full throttle globally with the product in the next couple of months.
That's awesome. Is there too soon to share a website for the new platform yet, or is there one that?
Well, I'll throw it out there. I'll tell anybody, all the listeners out there, it's rough because we just put it up and we're evolving it, but I like it enough, so I'll share it. So it's basically purposemeetsexecution.com. So www.purposemeetsexecution.com, and built a team which is on there of remarkable people that are helping me drive this forward, and so we have a bit of a stake in the ground in the World Wide Web right now.
I love it, Louis. I absolutely love it. And for those of you that want to learn more about Louis, you can visit Louis's website, which is louisefron.com, and Louis is spelled Louis. Efron is EFRON. louisefron.com, the voice of purpose. Louis, man, it is always such a pleasure to spend time with you, my friend. I cannot thank you enough for dedicating a solid chunk of your time with our listeners. Wish you nothing but the best, and man, just can't wait for our paths to continue to cross down the road.
Brian, thanks so much for having me. It's always wonderful speaking to you. So thanks so much.
It's my pleasure. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot, Louis.
Talk to you soon. Take care.
All right. Bye. Thanks for listening, folks. You can obtain a transcribed version of this show and hear more interviews from the Built on Purpose podcast by visiting our website, yscouts.com/podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I have two things for you. Number one, I'm hoping to get some bonus questions answered by Louis from our community. So if you have any questions you'd like Louis to answer, please drop me a line at brian@yscouts.com and I'll forward on your question. Second thing, If you enjoyed this episode, there's a couple of others I think you'll love too. Patty McCord, former Netflix Chief Talent Officer and current principal at Patty McCord Consulting, talks to us about how we can be innovative when it comes to our work. Second, Michelle Gielen, founder of the Institute for Applied Positive Research and the author of Broadcasting Happiness, The Science of Igniting and Sustaining Positive Change, talks to us about the power of how we broadcast our messages. Once again, that URL is yscouts.com/podcast. Until next time, thanks for listening.